you, and welcome to Collecting at Midnight, episode 6. I think this is 6. Yeah, because last time we were this many. This is episode 6, right? This is your unfiltered, uncensored, unleaded, unconventional look behind the scenes at Serial at Midnight, what's happening, what we're doing, what we've picked up, but what I want to elaborate more on in this video, and I've done it in the last ones too. This is not necessarily new, but I want to give you a peek, not just at what we've bought, because, you know, I'm always trying to move away from, we bought this, always pushing that further and further away. It's like the boulder in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm like, it's what you bought. I'm like, no. Just trying to push that back and focus more on just where we're at, what we're thinking about. So this will also be kind of a peek behind the scenes at some of the video ideas through the stuff that we've bought, some of the stuff we've actually talked about before, but I want to talk to you about it in a new context so you can see what's maybe what's ruminating and in the planning stages. These Collecting at Midnight videos, I don't know, these Collecting at Midnight videos will never be put on, they will never end up on the main YouTube channel. Sometimes we, like some of our commentaries, we said, you know what, this seems like a really good opportunity to give this to people like 6 months after the fact or something like that. These will never be on the main YouTube channel. As far as I know, things could change, but I don't plan on doing that. This is for you guys. This is just for Patreon people, and I like leaving it that way. So maybe there'll be some interesting behind the teens nuggets, behind the scenes Star Wars. Hey guys, have you heard of something called Star Wars? It's this really cool like science fiction. It's like space opera. I don't even know. It's kind of cool. There's this guy called Darth Vader and this guy called Luke Skywalker. But then Luke, he died. Spoilers for The Last Jedi, apparently. So on the note of Star Wars. By the way, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I shot like 5. I've started this video like 5 times, and I'm tired. I think that's what it is I'm really tired, and I just feel very loopy and punchy. So I'm not going to restart, and whatever you get is what we're rolling with. Maybe it'll benefit the video. I think of that Hammer Horror video that I did that time where I was very sick and I was very loopy, and people were like, "You should be sick more often." Okay, Star Wars. So it has, as I'm recording this video, Disney has leaked. The microphone is dragging my shirt down. No, is not gonna restart. Unedited and uncensored. Beep. Disney has announced that the final Star Wars, what's it called? The Rise of Skywalker. What a terrible name for a movie. We have The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. They always feel weird when they first get announced. I remember when I heard The Phantom Menace, and I was like, what? That seems, okay. Now I know George Lucas, it makes sense. He was going for that serialized 50s kind of a thing. Flash Gordon and The Phantom Menace, I can totally see that. But then Attack of the Clones came around, and everybody was just like, what the beep? No way. What a terrible name. So you kind of get used to them, but I do not think that The Rise of Skywalker is a great name for a movie. Anyway, Disney has announced that the last trailer, the final trailer for this new Star Wars movie will be airing during Monday Night Football. So when this video goes up, it will be out. Everyone will have seen the final trailer for episode 9. Hey, how about that trailer for episode 9? That was really interesting, huh? I can't believe that they showed insert footage here. Or also that insert name here is back in the movie. I have high hopes that J.J. Abrams will be able to make some sort of cohesive story out of the 2 completely disparate films that we have so far. I liked The Last Jedi in comparison to The Force Awakens, because The Force Awakens was very much just like, hey, you guys remember Star Wars, right? And The Last Jedi was a guy who had total freedom, too much freedom, going like, how can I write this series into a corner? And then he did. So hopefully this, you know, we'll get into this later. I have a Star Wars video on tap for November, it looks like, but the way that Disney has handled these movies has been really, really bad. I'm going to be honest with you. Regardless of what we think about the movies themselves, they started a trilogy with no idea what the first, second, and third the structure was going to be. It's basically been admitted that what's his name, Rian Johnson, was not given any parameters to stick to in relationship to what J.J. Abrams had done. Reportedly, J.J. Abrams didn't want to come back for the second in the trilogy because he'd had such a bad experience on the first one, that he had butted heads with Kathleen Kennedy, and that they did not get along, and that Lucasfilm was not talking to the bad robot people, and it was just like, none of this works. They had George Lucas's story ideas. George Lucas thought that they were adapting his stories, his treatments. They threw those out. They came up with their own, but they did not have structures 1, 2, and 3. And so structure 3, like somebody was asking J.J. Abrams, like the whole thing was like, well, who are Rey's parents? We always assumed maybe they knew and they were taking us on a ride. Turns out they didn't know. This has been confirmed. They didn't know. They were making the story up as they went, and that is dangerous for a trilogy, but it's especially dangerous for a beloved property like Star Wars. But anyway, I have high hopes for this last movie. And I'm kind of getting back into that Star Wars mood. It's interesting because it does seem to happen around the holidays. It used to happen in the summer because that's when Star Wars movies always came out. But then Disney comes along and they're like, how about Christmas? We'll do it at Christmas. And so every Christmas now I'm kind of conditioned and treated that the new action figures come out, the new books come out, the new movies come out, all the stuff comes out, holiday season. And so I'm kind of getting into the Star Wars thing, and I've been chasing down some Star Wars that I haven't read. There was something else I wanted to show you guys that I did not bring up here, but it's going to show up in a future video. I completed a collection. There was a series of Star Wars, they're Legends novels now, but they were called the Young Jedi Knights. I think it's Luke and Leia's kid, not Luke and Leia's. That would be very interesting. If Luke and Leia had children. Ooh, they would not be able to walk in a straight line. They would look like something from the Cantina band, or the Mos Eisley Cantina. Anyway, Han and Leia's children are basically the focus of the Young Jedi Knights line. There are other characters too. Anyway, there were 14 of those novels, and in the 90s, when I was a teenager, I was a member of the science fiction book club, the sci-fi book club, and they had compendium editions of those books, and they were coming out chronologically. Like I think the first volume is 5 novels, might be 6. I think it was 5, and it collects 5 of the Young Jedi Knights books, and then nothing for a while because they were still being written, and then the next series comes out, the next compendium comes out. I think it's maybe 4 books, and then the final one had 3. I believe it had 3 books. I never bought the third one. I don't know why. Maybe I just aged out of it. I was probably going to college. It's probably, life had taken over. But I never picked up that third one. Well, this past week, all these years later, I'm going to say 20 years later, I finally found that compendium edition. They are hard to find. I had an eBay alert set on eBay. So you can program eBay, you can put in search terms, and you get notified if something gets posted that you have on your want list. So I've had that item, that book, that compendium of the last volume of the Young Jedi Knights books. Now, I could have bought them in individual paperback many times over, but I wanted a matching set. So, it's been 2 years since I put that search term in there. And finally, this past week, someone put it up for sale. Cheap, too. It was like $10, and it goes for between $30 and $50 most of the time. That's another thing. When they would pop up, people would want way too much. I mean, that's subjective, but more than I was willing to pay. But I finally got it. So I have the matching set that is going to show up in a Star Wars bookshelf. I'm trying to decide if I want to read them again and then finish the series, because it's been a long time. That could be fun though, to go back and read those. They're short reads. They were like 100 and something pages each because they were for younger readers. So my younger reader days are far behind me, but it might be worth revisiting. But I never picked this one up, and this is regarded as one of the best books of the new canon, because when Disney took over, they were like, all that cool stuff that you guys grew up with, it's a legend. It did not happen. And they did that so that they could pick and choose what they wanted to bring into official canon, into Disney canon. Basically, and understandably so, Disney did not want to be married to a canon that they had not personally created. They wanted the focus to be on what they were doing. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, a lot of what they've done fiction-wise, is absolute garbage. Even the books that a lot of people really like, I'm not going to name the names of the books because I don't want to step on any toes or be that guy, but people will be like, well, you're not talking about so-and-so, right? Like, you really like this book. And I'm like, no, I actually hated that book. I've read most of the new canon, and I have found it to be lacking, very lacking. There's one book that starts with like a pilot's like crocheting a sweater for her brother. I'm like, this is not Star Wars. We don't crochet. We don't knit sweaters in Star Wars. Not that you can't, but that just isn't what we're there for. Star Wars is supposed to be space opera. It's the big themes. It's not the nuance. It's not... Now, that doesn't mean there's no character in Star Wars. Star Wars is also built on character, but it's really the hero's tale with these wide mythological hallmarks, these stepping stones. And when you're starting out your book with someone knitting a sweater, that's not... It just feels too real world. Everybody's drinking coffee, but they call it calf. Really strange choices, really earthbound choices. Another thing that Disney did is they basically cut loose all of the writers from the Legends era and brought in these new, hot, young, diverse writers. And I don't necessarily think that diversity is a bad word, but it does sometimes feel like Disney has pushed these people into this role, not because they're qualified for it, but because they fit the agenda that Disney is trying to perpetuate. So that's, I'm not yelling at the wind here. I'm not trying to be super, super grumpy, but Disney has really mishandled a lot of this stuff, in my opinion. And I am eager to read, all that goes to say, I am eager to read Lords of the Sith, because it is prime Darth Vader and the Emperor doing what they do, extinguishing the Jedi. That period between episode 3 and episode 4 that was off limits for so many years, that kind of explores it. So I'm excited about that. I have not touched a single page of it. We've actually gotten a couple of books in the Serial at Midnight Studios that have been sent for review. There's a Hard Case Crime novel that we actually got from Hard Case Crime. It was Random House. It came from Random House. So that was a big coup for Serial at Midnight to get an advance. Well, it's not advance, but they sent us a copy of this Hard Case Crime Halloween novel by Daniel Kraus, who's the guy that wrote, he co-wrote The Shape of Water with Benicio del Toro, the movie. I guess the book too. But he's written a hard case crime novel that takes place during Halloween. It's not what I was expecting. And I'm still kind of undecided about how I feel about it. It's been very challenging for me because when I think of hard case crime, I think of noir and fedoras and like rainy nights and like, that just crime, like hardcore, older Dashiell Hammett, Maltese Falcon style crime, or at least they even do stuff up to the 70s, but this is a modern thing. They reference The Price is Right and like Drew Carey. Like it's weird. It threw me, and the writing style is very unconventional. It's written like Ebonics, frankly, and I was just like, is this hard case crime? There's a couple of Stephen King novels that have been published under hard case crime as well, and I was challenged by those too. Even though I think the books are okay, they just don't necessarily feel like what the hard case crime brand is. But with all that said, we do have a review coming soon before the end of October. We're going to have a video review up for that. And we also have another book that was sent to us by a new author who is, I want to say it's like okay, so Dave, Cinema Dave, it's kind of a Jesse Stone feel. It's about like a Texas sheriff who is dealing with some personal issues, and he moves to this town, like there's a murder in this town. It feels very Robert B. Parker, Jesse Stone. So haven't started that yet. That's next on the agenda because we're supposed to review that as well. But after that, hoping to get to some Star Wars around the time that all the hype and the fervor is building. What else do I want to talk about? I'll save the DVDs for in a second. I picked up Ghostbusters, the video game for the Nintendo Switch. I posted about this on Instagram, I believe. If you guys follow us on social media, you probably, this might not be a surprise to you. You might have seen some of this stuff. But this is the original game. I think it was 2009 when it came out. It doesn't say, but this is a re-release for modern consoles. This is for the Switch. It's also on the PlayStation 4. Not sure about Xbox, but probably. But this is a remaster, and when they say remaster, I don't actually think anything's been remastered. They might have upped the frame rate somehow, made it like 1080p or 720p, something like that. I'm not sure. But I bought this for the PlayStation 3. I had a really good time with it. It's a relatively short game, but they've re-released it for modern consoles, and the only physical copy that you can get of both the PlayStation and the Switch version is at GameStop. Now, I hate GameStop. I absolutely cannot stand them. Their business practices are medieval. They are barbaric. New games that are unwrapped. Like, I purchased a new game from GameStop, and like the cover was half torn off. I was like, this isn't new? And he was like, no, it's never been played. What they do is they take them home and they play them, and then they bring them back, which they're allowed to do. The business practices at GameStop are just absolutely archaic, and they will give you like, we'll give you $3 for this game as credit, and then they turn around and sell it for like $58. Like, the new game is $60. We'll sell a used copy for $57. It's really, really terrible. And as physical media is declining in mass mainstream popularity, I don't think GameStop is going to exist in 12 months. I used to say like 3 years. I think I'd be surprised if they make it 12 months at this point. But I did go to GameStop for this because it is the only place to get a physical copy. I wanted the cartridge. It's a great game. If you haven't played it and you are a video game person, this is Ghostbusters 3. This is the Ghostbusters movie that we will never ever get because some of the people have passed on and because just time has moved on. But this is the official... The ideas that Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis were saving for a Ghostbusters 3, when it eventually, every year there'd be all these rumors like they're working on Ghostbusters 3, and then it could never happen. Like Bill Murray didn't like the script or something like that. They couldn't get everybody to agree on it. So eventually they just moved on, and we got that Ghostbusters movie with the Saturday Night Live comedians. But I realize you could say that about the original Ghostbuster. Well, it's the one with the Saturday Night Live comedians. I'm talking about the Lady Ghostbusters. But this is Ghostbusters 3. All 4 of the Ghostbusters are in this. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson. There's like 10 hours of story. It's not a super long game, but it's like 10 hours long. Everything that we love about Ghostbusters, the jokes, the quirky sense of humor, but like the irreverent, spooky, scary thing. It's all here because Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis came up with the idea. I don't know if they have script credits, but it's their baby. And a lot of what I was going to say is when Ghostbusters moved on and they just decided to move on to another project, Dan Aykroyd put the ideas that he'd been saving with Ramis into this. So the premise of the game is that you're a rookie for the Ghostbusters. They've had like pop-up chapters of Ghostbusters all over the place. They're looking for new people. So you're a rookie training, it's like your first night out with the Ghostbusters, and you're riding in the Ecto with Vinkman and Egon, and they're like, rookie, why don't you so-and-so? Like, tons of dialogue. Bill Murray, that's the amazing thing, is that Bill Murray was the holdout for so long. He's in the video game. He's a huge part of the video game. There's a ghost guide. So like, as you're capturing the ghosts with your proton pack and stuff, you can find out more information about them. It's like a ghost journal, and it's funny. Like, the ghosts are quirky. It'd be like, it's the ghost of the sea captain, who have a funny name. It feels like Ghostbusters. That tone is so hard to find. That Ghostbusters tone, because it's uniquely Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis and Bill Murray, and to a degree Ernie Hudson, but it's really Dan Aykroyd and Ramis's baby, and that tone is in this game, and I haven't seen it outside of the 2 movies. That tone, I have only seen it here. Real Ghostbusters kind of sort of had it because it's still from the 80s and the early 90s. I'm talking about the cartoon. We're hopefully going to talk more about the cartoon on Serial at Midnight before the month is over. Fingers crossed, schedule permitting. So if you're interested in Ghostbusters, the video game, and you love Ghostbusters, but you're just worried about, like, I don't know if a video game could capture it, it's fantastic. It is Ghostbusters 3. It is the only Ghostbusters 3 we're ever going to get with the original cast. So that's all I will say about that. Moving into movies, DVD, Blu-ray, stuff like that. I should tell you this. We picked up the complete series of Friends. This is one of those bargaining chips that seems to have been passed around. Like Netflix and NBC were kind of at war with Friends and The Office. Those are the big bargaining chips for streaming services, where, finally it was announced that like Netflix will not be getting The Office back. NBC has paid a ton of money so that when they launch their own streaming service, The Office can be one of the big draws for people. If you want to watch The Office, you got to sign up for the NBC streaming service. So we bought The Office. Coincidentally, we're on season 7 of The Office. We'll probably never talk about it on the channel again. I mean, maybe, but I will say that I think that The Office was a 4 to 5 season show. By season 7, it is limping. Maybe that's part of not watching it as it aired, but also just watching it, like binging it in one huge chunk. It had a lot of life in it for those first few seasons, but season 7, man, it is really, the energy is just not there. So don't mean to be a downer. It's fun, it's cool to see. You care about the characters, but it's so interesting to me that some of these shows go past their freshness date because they continue to draw. It's the thing, when you reach a certain number of episodes, you get that syndication money, and then the more episodes that you can kick into syndication, the better it is for everybody. So sometimes I think that shows make it as long as they do because syndication is more profitable. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in syndication. Now, that's all broadcast TV stuff. As we were talking about earlier, Office is moving to the NBC streaming service. Friends is another one of those shows that is a bargaining chip that Netflix is like, we will pay you a lot of money to retain Friends. I don't even remember how much it was. They spent bazillions of dollars to keep Friends on Netflix, but it's just for a finite time, and then Friends is leaving Netflix. I think for the NBC streaming service, we picked this one up as well. We're like, no, we will watch it when we want to watch it. That's our thing. It's like, that's why all this exists. It doesn't exist because we're hoarders or because we're like, first of all, I do love the collectible aspect. I do love having a library to go like, you know what, Brie? I'd like to watch They Live. Or I'd like to watch John Carpenter's blah, blah, blah. And then I just come up here and I'm like, whoop, and I pull it off the shelf. We watch it. I bring it back up. I put it. Having a library is awesome. I don't have to tell you guys that. You're people like me. My kind of people. But we were just like, we're not going to have this show that here's the thing. I've never seen all of Friends. I watched up to like season 7 or 8. And then again, like I was in college, I was dating, like stuff was happening and I was not watching Friends. And I've never gone back and watched the whole thing again. So I think this was one of those deals of the day, one of those Amazon gold box deals of the day. It was like $54, I think it was, which sounds like a lot, but it's 10 seasons. So if you factor in, it's like a little over $5 per season on Blu-ray. That was a really good deal. So we jumped on it, and now we can watch Friends whenever we want to. So that's that. Can I talk about some 4K without triggering some people? I know 4K is a super controversial topic. By the way, we make a lot of jokes about that. We got some serious, strong feedback from people. One guy was like, 4K, thumbs down. One guy, when we announced that we'd that we had upgraded to 4K equipment, was like, there goes the channel. Because clearly all we talk about is like, whatever, like DVDs and what. Like we're going to stop doing what we do because we have 4K. We're going to abandon like 98% of what we love to talk about and what we care about to focus on like the 2% of movies that come to 4K. It's ridiculous. So we have had fun kind of poking back at those people. I don't think any of you guys did that. I think most of you guys have been pretty understanding about that. Like you can have, like I still buy DVD. I still buy VHS. Nate sent us Dean Martin movies on VHS and then sweet John Wayne, some stuff from John Wayne. Like we love all this stuff, but we're not going to abandon a new format that looks really cool just because it's new. I don't know. It's a very weird thing. There seems to be a lot of like you can't buy a DVD in a 4K. Well, sure I can. I do it all the time. So 4K really seemed to trigger some people. And even now, whenever it comes up on YouTube, whenever we talk about 4K, somebody is like, nope, I don't want to hear it. 4K, no. Like we're over here with like 3D glasses watching things in space or something like that. Like I don't know. It's weird. It's real weird. The lines that people draw never cease to amaze me. All that goes to say, I picked up the Rambo movies on 4K, and I don't think I've talked to you guys about these. I've had them for a few weeks after the Rambo Last Blood came out. I think it was that weekend. I saw Rambo Last Blood on a Friday. Opening Day, still think that movie's fantastic. I do not think it's a political movie. I think people will make anything political if you let them. That's just the world we live in now, where everybody's eager to shove their politics down other people's throats. I don't think it's a political movie. I might be being very naive, but I really don't think it is. I think that's not the focus of the story. So anyway, Last Blood comes out. I do the review on Friday. Sunday morning, these drop to $12.99 a piece, which is a great deal. I think some of these had been $17.99 at Walmart leading up to it, which is, again, a good deal for a 4K disc. But $12.99 for these movies was fantastic. So I grabbed First Blood. I got them all. We're just going to go through them one by one. First Blood. Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Murdoch, I'm coming to get you. Rambo 3. And Rambo, the last, well, it's not the last anymore, the fourth one, which has both versions. There was a theatrical cut and then like an unrated cut. I've bought these movies so many times. I think this is the last time that I'm buying these movies. I can't imagine another consumer format beyond 4K, because 4K has not really been the success that I think they were hoping for. I mean, I think it's great, but I don't think there's like 8K may be coming, but I don't think 8K is coming to the consumer market or for digital media like this. Most movies are mastered in 2K. Now we're in an era where they're mastering movies in 4K, but I don't think they're going to do movies in 8K. There will be one or two. I'm not saying there will be no movies in 8K, but when most movies are mastered at 2K, and they have upconverted some to 4K, I just don't know that that's going to be ever be a consumer format. Not saying it won't exist. There might be 8K screens for like sporting events or things like that, but I don't think we're going to have 8K screens in our house anytime soon. I'm not going to say never. I'll say anytime soon. Anyway, these hopefully are the last time that I will buy these, but since I had them on DVD already, I'm not DVD. Well, I did have them on DVD. I've bought these movies VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K. These are some of those movies that I love so much that every time. Obviously, I did not buy the Rambo, the fourth movie on VHS or DVD because I don't think it existed during those formats. DVD, yes, but let's start over. Let's stop and start over again. Okay, guys, no, just kidding. But hopefully this is the last time that I've bought them. But they are some of those movies that every format change, I do upgrade those movies because I love them. I grew up with Rambo. I talked about it in that Last Blood review. It's just part of me. It's part of who I am. Not in a sense of like, let me clarify. Rambo was a hero to me when I was a kid. I was, in the 80s. I grew up. I was born in the end of the 70s, and I grew up in the 80s and the early 90s. And that was prime Rambo time. And so when I think about like the muscle-bound heroes, like I was the age for Arnold Schwarzenegger, for Sylvester Stallone, for Jean-Claude Van Damme. These were my titans. These were my larger-than-life heroes. The wrestlers as well, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, guys like that. These were my giants. These were my titans. And Sylvester Stallone, as I get older, I just continue to appreciate the depth of his career. I don't think that he is Rambo. Maybe, the last movie might tap into a little bit of his personal fears and some of his personal experiences, but I really feel like what he brings to the Rocky films and now to the Creed movies, what he brings to, I think he's a really sensitive guy. I think he's a really smart guy. I think he was a victim of success in the 80s with all the, the growth hormones and maybe some substances. I don't know. But I've always admired Stallone. He's one of my, I'd put him in my top 3. I have his book, his fitness book. He just means a lot to me. I think he's a wonderful guy. I think he's creative. I think he's smart. And I think that, people make fun of the way he talks and they make fun of his mouth. So when he was born, the doctor was pulling him out with forceps, and the forceps paralyzed his mouth. They severed the nerves in his mouth when he was born. And that's why he talks the way he talks. That's why his mouth does not open on one side of his face. And he has yet been able to surpass that and overcome that and become this huge, one of our best, one of the most prolific and iconic action star, not just action, because, he does other things besides action. one of those guys, one of those giants in the industry. And I have always admired that, taken inspiration from that. Because he's not a conventionally handsome guy. He's not a conventionally well-spoken guy. You know, people talk about, like, he talks like he has his mouth full of marbles or something like that. Yeah, that's technically true, but look what he's been able to accomplish. And so I find inspiration from that. I feel like I'm preaching. Guys, I'm going to pass the collection bucket around. If you would just go greet somebody that you've never seen here before and just tell them you're glad they're here. No, that's gross. So I did buy these on 4K, and what's cool is that from the last editions that I had, the Blu-rays, they were like early editions of those Blu-rays. You know, when every format comes out, they, like Blu-rays from 2009 don't hold the candle to Blu-rays from 2017, 2018. Now, you know, the coding, the compression, all of it gets so much better as they continue to explore the format. We watched Scream the other night on Blu-ray, and it looked horrible. It looked like a DVD. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you would think that Blu-ray would be like, it'd be like the peak presentation, but it looked really bad. So, and it was from 2011, which was very early in the format. So I had the Rambo movies from early in the Blu-ray cycle, and these have Blu-ray copies from the last couple of years, which have been completely redone. The Blu-rays that come with these have our special features on them. I guess the special features are on both. A lot of times with the 4K disc, the special features are only on they always come with a Blu-ray of that movie. So you get the 4K, which is the ultra high definition version, and then the Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray usually has all the special features because they want to leave the main feature on a disc by itself with maximum space, maximum information on that disc, you know, so nothing else to inhibit or take up space. So all of these discs, with the exception of Rambo, are new to me, because the Rambo disc that comes in here is actually the one that I have. It is turn it around here. It is the extended cut Blu-ray, which I have the theatrical and the extended cut. They got me twice. I also have the Expendables movies on I think the first movie got an extended cut and a theatrical cut. I bought them both. I'm such a mark for Stallone. Okay, so that's Rambo. Again, I don't know if I've ever talked about those on the main channel, and I don't know if I ever will, but I'm happy to have them. Like that, you know, I just spent like 10 minutes talking about what that means to me. Let's see. Oh, I'll talk about this really quick. Still sealed and in its wrapper is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. This is the Elvira movie. I have this on DVD somewhere, but they announced, who is this? RLJE Films. RLJ, now that's RLJ Entertainment. That's what it is. They are, I don't know what to say about them. I think, did RLJ do Rambo? I think they did the Last Blood movie. Anyway, RLJ has put this out. Now, the controversy, if there is such a thing, around this movie is that Arrow Video has their own edition of this in England, which is jacked to the nines. Like Captain Tiki on Red Bull, it is just jacked with special features, tons of stuff, reversible artwork, I believe. You know, Arrow, we talk about Arrow Video on the channel from time to time. They put out like reference quality stuff. They are the Criterion. In fact, they blow Criterion away because Criterion's not going to put Elvira out, but they will. So the Arrow Video version of Elvira just came out a couple of months ago in the UK. No announcement for America. So RLJ goes, we can release that here. I don't know how. I don't know how two companies have release rights for this movie in the US, in the same market, but they apparently do. So this comes out, this was announced, you know, like right around the time that the Arrow Video version is in the UK. And people are like, is it the new transfer? Because Arrow Video has like a new 4K transfer. And it's not. It's the DVD era transfer, but in HD. But here's the thing. This was like $10.99 on Blu-ray, and Amazon was running a special. I posted about it. I did a deal alert for this. It was, there was like an instant coupon where if you check out now, you save an additional $2. So this was $8.99, a brand new Blu-ray, like brand new release for $8.99. It has no special features, but it is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark in HD. And this will tide me over until Arrow decides to put theirs out in the US market. I still don't think they've released a date for that yet. So it's kind of just speculation. If they had the ability to release this in the United States and did not for Halloween, they really, really missed the boat. They would have sold a lot of units, thousands of units. If they had, I speculate, I think they would have been really successful if they timed that to a Halloween release, because RLJ did, and I know a lot of people picked this up because it was like $9. Okay, now bear with me on this last stuff. I'm going to take you on a train of creative thought. I also did a deal alert recently for Corman's World, which is a documentary about Roger Corman. I did not have this Blu-ray. I've wanted this Blu-ray. It's kind of been on the back burner because obviously we back burner a lot. We have a lot of stuff here. And so if we see something that we want, but it's not quite the right price, back burner that bad boy. That's one of our 5 rules of collecting physical media, is just be patient. Yeah, things come around. Nothing ever really goes out of print either. I mean, I say that. Some things have gone out of print, but chances are if something goes out of print, someone else is going to come in and pick it up. Sometimes it takes a few years. You know, like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and She-Ra and Voltron have been out of print in the United States in England too. I think they've been out of print everywhere for several years. I want to say 3-4 years. But be patient. Now they're available and cheaper than they've ever been. $50, you can get the complete series of all of those. We did a video about that. I'm just saying, patience usually pays off. So this got backburnered, and when it dropped for that deal alert, I was like, now is the time. And I grabbed it. Haven't watched it yet. I've been, just behind the scenes, I've been watching these Drive-In Delirium collections from Umbrella Entertainment that they sent us for review. And they are trailer compilations, for drive-in trailer compilations. So 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Nothing from the 90s. It's all the classic era of the drive-in trailers of everything, like action, comedy, grindhouse, whatever you can imagine. They're kind of grouped by categories. So like car chase movies, military movies. There's a horror one that's like, okay, but the zombie chunk, the giallo chunk, the giant rubber monsters from the 50s chunk. They kind of group them. And we're actually I think this week, as I'm recording this week, that video, our official video review for that will be going up. But that's what I've been watching. Those things are long. I mean, each Drive-In Delirium collection is 2 halves. It'd be like part 1 and part 2. Each part is 3 hours. It's like 3 hours and 16 minutes of trailers. So combine those together and you've got 6.5 hours of trailers. But they also can come with a special feature called VHS Delirium, which is like an hour and a half of VHS transfer. The Drive-In Delirium, they're all film transfers. They're all shot and restored in HD. Shot on film, restored in HD. They've restored all the trailers. So they're high definition film from usually 35mm, 16mm. They look really great. The VHS Delirium is VHS trailers. So those are like another hour and a half. So you're looking at about 8 hours per volume of Drive-In Delirium. So that's like 16 hours. So that's whenever I've had a couple of, like I have an hour, I'll watch some Drive-In Delirium because we don't review things here at Serial at Midnight without actually watching them. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine, is that people get review copies of stuff and then they review it. I'm not talking about any of you guys or YouTube. I'm talking about like websites that I'm thinking of, that you can tell they didn't watch the thing and they have no idea what they're talking about. They just got it and they got it for free, so they turn around and review. And you can tell when you read the review, like, you didn't see this. Like, that doesn't make sense. We try to watch everything that comes through here. So I'm doing the work on all 16 hours of those Drive-In Delirium things. So that's what I've been doing. That's why I have not watched Corman's World yet. But I do want to spotlight Corman in the near future. So here's the thing. Corman, to my generation, people from the 60s, people from the 70s, Corman is considered the king of the bees. I think he even has a book, Roger Corman, King of the Bees, because he was the guy that revolutionized the bee cinema, low-budget cinema, exploitation cinema. Like, Roger Corman is synonymous with mockbusters, Piranha, Death Race 2000. That's the title, right? Anyway, all those 60s and 70s grindhousey movies, the Vincent Price, Edgar Allan Poe films, those are Roger Corman. They take existing sets or a little bit of a budget and they would just exploit what they had. sometimes exploit actors. But the thing is, we love these Roger Corman movies. I will speak for myself. I love Roger Corman movies. A lot of movie fans love Roger Corman as well, and he is considered the king of the bees. But in exploring and ever growing my historical dive into movies, I was watching the Universal horror set. This is collection 1, 2, and 3. Two's out, 3 is not out yet. But I don't have volume 2. I just have this one. But The Black Cat is the best movie on here. It's 1934. It's Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. Someone gets skinned alive. It's technically a code era movie, the Hays Code, the decency code. They'd be like, you can't do that in a movie. You can't have an ending like that. They have to tell a joke and walk off the screen. Like, you can tell when the code really kicked in, because before the code, you could have super dark graphic. There's 30s movies, there's 20s movies, nudity, all kinds of stuff. Drug use, things like that, like teen pregnancies, all these things, affairs. Pre-code, you could get away with a lot in 30s movies, but then the code comes along and they shut the whole thing down and they really over-sanitized. So this movie is technically a code era movie, but it's 1934 when the code was not really being enforced. And so it's very dark. I mean, it's really dark. There's like a Satan. Boris Karloff plays a Satanist. He's collecting dead bodies. Again, someone gets skinned alive. It's pretty gruesome. And if any of that scares you away, like it's nothing you can't handle. It's a 30s movie. It's just kind of shocking because we have a tendency to think that, oh, they didn't do things like that back then, but they did. But here's the point. Black Cat, released May of 1934, directed by Edgar G. Ulmer. You guys know where I'm going with this? And so it was like, Edgar G. Ulmer is a name that just keeps coming up. I'm talking about like monster movies, noir. I think he did some noir films. And so I just started kind of exploring my collection and some things that I'd seen, some things that I knew about. And then I was like, I just picked this up from Shout Factory, or Scream Factory, The Man from Planet X. It's a 50s... We talked about this in a main channel video about Scream Factory. I think, didn't we? I don't remember now. We talked about it somewhere. But this is a 1951 science fiction / horror movie directed by Edgar G. Ulmer. And I was like, oh man, this name just keeps popping up. And then I ordered this off the internet. This is Strange Illusion, which is another stylish, low-budget feature directed by Edgar Ulmer. The most interesting aspect of the film rests with this updating of Hamlet, complete with the message from beyond the grave and the faked insanity. Bottom line, it's a creepy, spooky thriller with a ton of atmosphere from Edgar G. Ulmer. And the more that I start researching it, there's actually a documentary. Is it on here? Let's see. Somewhere. It's not on this one. Something that I was watching. What was it? If I remember, I'll edit it. I'll put it down here. I can't remember what something I was watching had a documentary on it about Edgar G. Ulmer. Oh, now it's going to blow my mind or drive me crazy. There is like a full length, like a 75-minute documentary about Edgar G. Ulmer. And do you know what they called Edgar G. Ulmer in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s? They called him the King of the Bees. He is the original King of the Bees. So I am ruminating and planning this video where I talk about Roger Corman as the King of the Bees, and then I talk about Edgar G. Ulmer as the original King of the Bees. And maybe 2 videos. I haven't worked it all out yet. I'm still doing the work. I'm still doing the research on this. It could be a year from now. I don't know when it's going to be, but I think it's worth talking about. What do you think? Roger Corman, King of the Bees, but he's the second King of the Bees because Edgar G. Ulmer is the original King of the Bees. I think that's really interesting. You know what it was? Detour. The Criterion Collection movie, the disc of Detour. The famous, one of the coolest, best film noir. Oh, Jamie Mason. Film noir. It's one of the best film noirs I have ever had the great fortune of running across in my day. It is If you haven't seen Detour, it never looked great. It always kind of looked crusty and old. And then Criterion got their hands on a restoration done by, I can't remember who. It was funded by George Lucas, the George Lucas Film Institute or whatever. I love George Lucas. We're going to have to do a spotlight on like people, like those people that say George Lucas ruined my childhood. I love George Lucas. So his foundation funded the restoration of Detour, and it looks really, really good. It's not perfect, but it looks really good. Directed by Edgar G. Ulmer, and on that disc, that's where it is. This is 75, I think it's 75 minutes. It's over an hour. This documentary about Edgar G. Ulmer, King of the Bees, and they talk to John Landis and Joe Dante are in the car together. They're in the back seat of a car, and they're just like, every now and then, you see them together. They'll be like in an interview together, and you can just tell they go like way, way, way back. And so like zero pretense with either one of them. It's like John Landis just talks and talks and talks, and then Joe Dante's like, okay, well, I don't have to say anything because you're saying enough for everybody. It's like that kind of friendship that I really appreciate. And they're in the back seat of a car being interviewed together, and he'll be like, what was the name of that thing? Be like, Joe, what was the name of that movie back in the day that it had, oh, I don't, and then Joe Dante will be like, oh, it's called so-and-so. Be like, that's it, Joe, that's it. So they complement each other very well. So that's on the disc. And they also, I think it's Tom Mank is on there as well. Hold on, let me look at the extras for the Black Cat. I want Gregory William Mank. That's his name. I think he's on the special features as well. That documentary as one of the talking heads. Whew, got excited about that. But Detour is really great. I grabbed that one. It went down to like $17 on Amazon. I think I did a deal alert for that. This was months ago. But we watch the stuff that comes in here. It's like research. Like when it comes to stuff like that, like I really do take notes. When these old school guys start talking about, like when they talk about Edgar G. Ulmer or Roger Corman or somebody like that, I take notes, legit. So we're almost done. I guess I want to talk about some music, because I did pick up some music. I've got these records here, which you might have seen in the background. I grabbed, I did a review for the movie FM. There's an Arrow Video Blu-ray of FM, which is it's a movie about, it's a 70s movie about kind of the last days of free radio, when DJs had freedom to play what they wanted to play, say what they wanted to say. And it's so interesting because here's another peek behind the scenes. By the way, if any of these videos ever show up on any other channels, I'm going to know that you leaked it out to them, because I think these are gems. I think these ideas are really unique. FM came out the same year, actually just a few months before the debut of WKRP in Cincinnati. And they are like the same thing. There's like a blonde, rebellious DJ. There's the soul music late night host. There's so many parallels between FM and WKRP in Cincinnati. Months apart. I don't actually think that any of it was copied from anybody else. I think they were both based on some real life DJs that I'm actually going to do a video and talk about the comparisons to those, because I think it's just too cool. But watching FM on Blu-ray reminded me that I needed to get the soundtrack, and I grabbed the FM double vinyl. This is the double vinyl. It's not in the jacket itself, the vinyl jacket, it's not in great shape, but the records look fantastic. They look like they've never been touched. And really, some of these songs, you're like, well, that's, it's so FM is kind of what I was saying, it's kind of like independent radio when they could play what they wanted to play. Tom Petty's in the movie. And most of the stuff that they talk about, let me switch gears. One of the special features of that Blu-ray is a journalist talking about how, ironically, the music, the soundtrack for FM doesn't reflect the message of the movie, because it's very corporate. All the tunes are corporate sponsored from these huge labels, Atlantic and Mercury and like Warner Brothers Records. All these major huge labels paid to have their music put in the movie, and so it's actually a very corporate movie. There's no punk rock in FM. There's no like cutting edge new wave sort of stuff. What we have, there's like the Eagles, I think Life in the Fast Lane. Here, I'll read some of them to you. Foreigner's Cold as Ice. Like, I mean, I like that song. I'm just saying, in a movie about a rebel radio station. The Eagles, Life in the Fast Lane. Boston, More Than a Feeling. This is like the most one of the most popular radio songs of the entire 70s. And still now. I think I heard that on the radio literally this morning, taking my daughter to school. Bob Seger, Night Moves. So, James Taylor, Your Smiling Face. Joe Walsh, Life's Been Good. These are not deep cuts, but it does have the theme song. The song FM is the name of the song by Steely Dan, and Steely Dan, they do it again on here as well, so I have that on vinyl now. It's also got Linda Ronstadt does 2 live performances in the movie. So we have Tumblin' Dice, which is a cover of the Rolling Stones song Tumblin' Dice from Exile on Main Street. It's Exile, right? And Poor Pitiful Me. It also has Jimmy Buffett, Livingston Saturday Night, which is also live in the movie. And what's interesting is, like, Jimmy Buffett is the this microphone, so help me. Jimmy Buffett is now, of course, like the Margaritaville guy, the perpetual Hawaiian vacation guy. But in this, he's not there yet. That hasn't happened yet. I think he was right on the cusp of it, of that Margaritaville thing. So it's kind of country. It's kind of like a pop country kind of a thing. It's interesting. It's different. It's not what I associate Jimmy Buffett with. So it's cool. I got this soundtrack for a very good deal. Again, it's the jacket is not in great shape, but it's all part of my research for my upcoming FM WKRP crossover comparison video. And if you haven't read the review of FM, it's at serialatmidnight.com. It's a written review, but I'm very proud of it. I think that I really tapped into the message of that movie and was able to, sometimes when you conceive what you want to say, you don't always get it out. I really feel like I got it out in that review. I also picked up, I'm on a huge Stevie Wonder kick right now. If you guys are paying attention to serialatmidnight.com or our Instagram account, stuff like that, I'm talking more about Stevie. I'm going down a huge Stevie Wonder rabbit hole. I mean, I say it's huge. I'm not buying a ton of stuff yet, but I probably will. So a few months back, I don't know, 6 months back, we did a vinyl at Target. I think it was just called New Vinyl is the name of that video. And we had gotten some really good deals at Target on vinyl. They were clearancing things out at 50 and 70% off. And I got Stevie Wonder's album Musicarium. I think it's called Stevie Wonder's The Original Musicarium Volume 1. I think that's the technical title of it. It was a greatest hits collection of his 60s, I don't think it was anything from the 60s, of his 70s and early 80s. I think the album is 1981, 80 or 81, somewhere in there. But it is classic Stevie, like Superstitious, that sort of thing. And the gimmick of that album was every side, side 1, side 2, side 3, side 4 is two albums. Every side ended with a then new song. And so, like, they're hits. Like, now those songs are hits, but they weren't at the time. But I discovered this song called Superwoman on that collection. I was like, I don't know this song. I've never heard this before. It's not. I have Stevie Wonder's Greatest Hits on CD, and it's not on that. CD has like 21 songs on it or something like that, but it doesn't have Superwoman. So I was like, what is this? And then I trace it down, and Superwoman is from this album, Music of My Mind, from 1972. This is on the Tamla label, which is a subsidiary of Motown. Motown went by Tamla. They've gone by several things, but they have different labels for different artists and things like that. Stevie Wonder, this is Tamla. By the way, there it is. If anybody's got a hot tip on a Tamla shirt, let me know. I would love to have some of these Motown era. Motown shirts are everywhere, but like Tamla, some of these labels, I want record label shirts. Somebody on Etsy should do those. I've looked, have not found. But this is a really good album that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. We live in a greatest hits society. If people know about Stevie Wonder at all now, they're familiar probably with the greatest hits. But I'm going back and doing the album work, starting with this one. The album after this is Talking Book, and that's the one that has Superstition on it. And I've bought it used, vintage vinyl. I bought it on eBay for literally, I think it was $3.76. Like excellent condition, I think it said. Like the jacket's a little worn. It's like this one. The jacket doesn't look great. It's clearly, in fact, the listing said, I bought this new. It's been sitting in a record shelf for 30 years. So it's got some shelfware, some scuffing, but the vinyl itself is, it's in really good shape. It's got a few pops, certainly no skips, but just a few like, every now and then there'll be a pop. I like that. That doesn't bother me. I grew up with vinyl, so it sounds good to me. So you'll probably be seeing some more Stevie Wonder around, in and around Serial at Midnight. What's our time? Oh, 54 minutes. We're going to wind this to, it's 6 more minutes. Will be about an hour. Alice Cooper has a new EP out called Breadcrumbs. The Breadcrumbs EP. And this is his tribute to the music of Detroit. It has, I think, 1 or 2 new songs. I'm trying to remember. It only has 6 songs on the whole EP. This is the vinyl, obviously. It only has 6 new songs. I'm sorry, 6 songs total. I think 2 of them are new. There's no point in taking this out, is there? But it's a tribute to Detroit because he's from Detroit. So there's a Bob Seger cover on here. But they're deep cuts. They're not what you would expect. So it's Detroit City 2020 is, that's an Alice Cooper song. Let's see. Written by Alice Cooper. Okay, yes. Go Man Go. That's Alice Cooper as well. So there's 2 songs by Alice Cooper and the Alice Cooper, his band. And then Go Man Go. No, we did that one. Okay, East Side Story is written by Bob Seger. Your Mama Won't Like Me is written by Michael Chapman and Nikki Chin. Devil with the Blue Dress, the famous Devil with the Blue Dress, is William Stevenson and Frederick Long. Chains of Love by Mick Collins, and Sister Anne by Fred Smith. So I don't even know all of the original artists for some of those songs, but he's going deep into Detroit. The whole album is like 20 minutes. It's an EP, so it's like 10 minutes per side. It's hard rockin'. It's not, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not like, oh, this is amazing. It's solid. It's good, but it's not like mind-blowing or anything like that. But I'm one of those guys, when Alice Cooper puts something new out, I always pick it up because he's one of those guys that I always love to support. He's in his 70s and he's still creating things constantly. He's still very prolific. He still tours nonstop. Hopefully, he's going to be here in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, we'll be going to see him for our 4th time. We've seen him 3 times in the last few years. So hopefully we'll be seeing him again. Big Alice Cooper fan. What's the 100 degree, what's the complete polar opposite, 180 degree opposite of Alice Cooper? It would be Neil Diamond. And I picked up Neil Diamond's, what is this called? All-time greatest hits. It's got 23 Neil Diamond songs on it. And I got this for $7. It was an impulse buy. So I'm watching Mannix, and there was an episode where Neil Diamond is playing in a club. It's like a club on the Sunset. It's not a real club. It's a fictional club. It's like a hippie club on the Sunset Strip. And he goes in. It's a 1967 episode, so it's everything you expect. It's like fuzzy clothes and like square sunglasses. He's like, hey man, what do you do? So Neil Diamond is playing on stage. He's playing Solitary Man by himself on the acoustic guitar. And I was just like, woo! It's really good. And so it just kind of got me thinking, like, I like Neil Diamond. I don't like all Neil Diamond. I certainly don't like as he progressed through the 80s, but that 60s, 70s, he wrote songs for the Monkees. I think I'm a Believer is on this collection. I saw her face, now I'm a Believer. Yeah, Solitary Man is on here. Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. Let's see. Kentucky Woman, that got covered by, was it Deep Purple? Covered Kentucky Woman. And then Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show, which is in the trailer for Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I did not have that. I have the soundtrack for that, for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it does have that version on it. But the thing about the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood soundtrack is that all the songs have been kind of mixed to sound like they're on the radio. Maybe they are sourced from the radio, but it doesn't sound CD quality. It sounds radio quality because they're trying to create a vintage 1969 radio experience with that soundtrack. So now I have the regular version of that song as well. There's a lot of good stuff on here. What's some else? Cracklin' Rosie, Forever in Blue Jeans, Song Sung Blue, Sweet Caroline, all the usual suspects. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of America. We're coming to America. I might have been 30 years ago. I just don't ever need to hear that song again. It came on the radio all the time. Radio will kill a song, especially now when everything's owned by iHeartRadio and Top 40 is the format for whatever station you're listening to. These are the top 40 classic rock songs. We'll play these 40 songs over and over and over every day. Then the last, but certainly not least, I picked up a CD of Willie Nelson's Heroes album. This is kind of a duets album. They're covers. There's a couple of originals on here. So there's Roll Me Up which I think that had a video, but it's got Snoop Dogg, Jamie Johnson, and Chris Christopherson. You know I love me some Chris Christopherson. It's got a bunch of duets with his son, Lucas Nelson, a duet with Billy Joe Shaver, a song with Ray Price, country music legend Ray Price, and then I think Willie by himself at the very end, he does a cover of Coldplay's The Scientist. Willie Nelson is amazing. I think he's in the twilight of his career. I'm going to miss him very much, but he's not gone yet, so I'm trying to appreciate him as much as I can while he is still here with us. I love Willie Nelson. Love to talk about him every time I get a chance. Guys, let's wind this down. Let's wrap this up. This has been Collecting at Midnight, episode 6. I hope that you have enjoyed hanging out, having this behind the scenes look. Let me know, do you like stuff like this? Give me some feedback. Do you enjoy these? Some of you do, some of you let me know. I really enjoy these unfiltered conversations, these long form conversations, but a lot of times we just don't get much feedback at all. We get the views, we just don't get much feedback. So would love to know if you enjoy these, if you feel like you're hanging out with us, because you are. But whatever you're doing, wherever you are, I hope that you have a happy and safe. Halloween's coming up, and that's what I'm thinking about. So I hope you have a happy and safe Halloween. We are still finalizing what we want to do for our Halloween celebrations. Honestly, we're kind of waiting on our schedules to become more apparent. Sometimes our time is not our own with parenting obligations, things that, we've had volleyball and stuff like that. But we are waiting to see when we will finalize our Halloween festivities. We do want to do something very special for Serial at Midnight this month for Halloween. Guys, thank you. I really do appreciate you. These Collecting at Midnights are just an opportunity to hang out one-on-one. And I don't know. I feel like you're here. I feel like I'm talking directly to you. So thank you. I do appreciate you very much. Take care. And until next time, I will catch you guys later. Bye.